Sadhguru, welcome to Yale.
Thank you.
What a delight, what a joy to have you here. You are among friends, and it seems that there are many who know of your work, and there are many who don't.
You are a highly educated man, but I'm devoid of education, so you have to…
Well, you know, as…
Make some allowances for me.
That's lovely of you to say. I'm so well educated, I have rediscovered a joyful curiosity. And while it is true I have many degrees after my name, as I've lost my hair and become more wrinkly, I've so enjoyed the sort of spirit of joyful curiosity. So in the spirit of hospitality, in the spirit of joyful curiosity and coming together across traditions, I would love to hear your thoughts on a number of topics. The one that is near and dear to my heart as an educator and as a physician and a pastor is this area of wellness and burnout. Physicians today, a big study came out, 54% of physicians in America meet criteria for burnout. And nurses are in the same boat. And you're here at a medical school, and we're looking for answers, and we're looking for hope. And so to those 54% of physicians who are burned out, and the nurses and PAs and nurse practitioners, all of us in healthcare, what would you say to them?
If we have to bring health, either to ourselves or to others, one fundamental thing is you bring a very profound sense of wholeness into you, the various dimensions of life that we are. All of it is in sync and functioning well. It's sad to hear that physicians are in a state of burnout. How would they cause health? They could sell more medicine, but they cannot cause health if they are in a state of burnout. Now we're seeing, as modern medicine progresses, comes out with miracle after miracle, research, all kinds of things. But people are not getting healthy. More people are getting sick than ever before. A country like United States, which is the most affluent country on the planet, which essentially means you have a choice of nourishments. Every human being has a choice of nourishment. Most of the ailments that you see in other parts of the world are nourishment related in some way, because the needed nourishment is not there at the right time for a whole lot of people on this planet. But in a country where there is a choice of nourishment, I would say an excessive choice of nourishment, the nation is spending $3 trillion on healthcare. This is bigger than the budgets of major nations in the world. India's economy is around $3 trillion. You're spending that much on healthcare of 250,000 people. This shows somewhere we have missed health. Maybe we have an industry going, but we have missed health. Well, we can explain it in so many ways, but doctors being under burnout, everybody thinks their profession is the most difficult one. If any individual human being is creating something that they really care for, there would be never any kind of burnout. Myself and a whole lot of people around me, we are 7 days of the week, 20 hours a day, 365 days. This is our schedule. You will not see me burned out. Maybe sometimes I'll get physically exhausted. Maybe I'll die of exhaustion one day, but definitely not of burnout or boredom. Those two things will never happen to me. Why I'm saying this is, the fundamental reason why this is happening is particularly the physicians, because there are various kinds of professions. But particularly when people go to a doctor, in some way they're placing their life in his hands. So when somebody is willing to place their life in your hands, you must treat it as a sacred duty. It's not just a job, it's not just a business. It is when somebody is willing to place their life in your hands, I'm telling you, even people who live with you, your own wife and children or husband is not willing to place their life in your hands completely. But somebody, an unknown person comes and places his life in your hands, I think it's the greatest privilege that somebody trusts you at that level, that they're willing to trust you with life. You could do right things or wrong things, knowingly or unknowingly, because nobody has figured the human body absolutely, all right? We know it to some extent. So you may do any number of wrong things, but they place their life into your hands. I think traditionally it was said like this in India. In any given society, if education, medicine and spiritual process, if it gets commercialized, that society will go down the drain. I think we are doing this to the entire modern world. All three are becoming commercialized. There is nothing wrong with commerce. Commerce is a transaction of give and take. You give me this, I'll give you that. But there are some things which cannot be handled as just give and take. If you bring this aspect of transaction into spiritual process, into education and into medicine, then it turns ugly, and that ugliness will definitely burn you out one way or the other. Above all, what people are experiencing is burnout is, first of all, they're doing something that they don't care for. If they were genuinely doing something that they truly care for, there would be no burnout. The more opportunity you get to do it, the better it would be, isn't it? Everything is towards a certain end. The joy of doing what you're doing is not there in one's life. This is not just for any one profession, it's for all professions, but particularly in a profession like this, where it's a question of life and death for somebody else. When it's a question of life and death for the person who is sitting in front of you, it can't be a transaction for you. Well, there is a business end to everything, because to make anything sustainable, there has to be a business end to it. We are not against the business end of it, but within yourself, if you don't do it as a great offering to the person who is sitting in front of you, of course they will pay their fee, but within yourself, if you're not like this, definitely you will burn out doing this kind of work. Otherwise, every day, if you helped a person, if in some way you made somebody's life… their life better, by the end of the day, should you be ballooned into a joyful state or should be in a state of burnout at the end of the day? It should not be a burnout. If you genuinely experienced, you have enhanced many lives around you, this is not about service, this is not about ideas of I served this, I did this. No, there is a joy within a human being when they're able to touch another life. Why you're holding a few people dear to you as family is because you believe you can touch their life in some way. You can make a difference. That is what is most important for a human being. In every activity that we perform, whatever the nature of the activity, how profoundly we can touch someone else, this is what makes the big difference. If you make a movie, you don't want to make a movie which nobody wants to watch, would you? You want people to watch this movie and come to tears, isn't it? You don't want to build a house that nobody wants to live in. You don't want to cook something that nobody wants to eat. These things you can do only because in some way you are able to touch another life through your activity. This is most fundamental need within the human being. And as a physician, you have a phenomenal opportunity of touching lives like very few other professions can do. And this should not lead to burnout, but this is happening so because we are trying to treat it like a transaction. And the most fundamental thing that we have not understood in this process is that human experience is caused from within, not from outside. Your joy and misery, your pain and pleasure, your agony and ecstasy, even light and darkness right now is happening only within you. It never happens around you. What happens within you, if you try to fix it by fixing what is around you, you will go bonkers in no time. I am surprised why only 54%. Because if you don't understand human experience is caused from within, especially medical professionals who in some way have delved into the nature of human physiology and I believe to some extent the mind, we must know that every aspect of human experience comes from within. And today, modern medicine especially, unlike the traditional medicine, is entirely chemical fixes for everything. So you understand that both health and illness is happening because of chemistry. Joy and misery is a certain chemistry, different types of chemistry. Ecstasy and agony are different types of chemistry. Or in other words, we are a chemical soup. The question is only, are you a great soup or a lousy soup? Now, if I give soup-making ingredients to all of you, do you believe all of you will come with the same kind of soup? You will come with 100 different varieties of soups. So there is something called as the skill of soup making. All of us have come with the same fundamental ingredients of life. See in how many ways we have become, and only 54% are getting burnt out. Handling life so wrong, 100% should be burnt out.
So let's talk about making soup.
Don't go into this area, I'm a very good cook.
Okay. So we'll talk… so this soup of life, if you will. Tonight there is a nurse or a physician who has come home and they told a family member that their loved one just died. Or they treated a child who's undergoing chemotherapy. Or they were in a clinic where they're taking care of someone who, doesn't have enough insurance to cover that medication. And so those good folks have come home and their spirits are broken. And they love what they do. I think burned out physicians love what they do. They do. And I like that metaphor of soup. What can we do? And so, what can we do? What can that nurse, that physician assistant, that doc, Saturday morning comes around, they wake up, what should they do?
I can teach you a way of making your chemistry into a blissful chemistry. That means you're blissful by your own nature, not because of something that happened around you. This is exactly what I'm saying. What this question implies is, what happens around you determines what happens within you. The significance of being human is this, that what happens within me, I can create around me. If what happens around me makes me, I am still in animal nature. A human being means I do all the same things that the animal does, but I can do all of it consciously. That is the big part of being human. Well, you are born like any other creature, you grow up, You eat, you sleep, maybe you reproduce and you die one day. This is what every creature does. This is what you and me do. But we can do it consciously, which includes your thought, your emotion, everything. To put this very simply, it amazes me that people are 20, 30, 50, 60 years of age, they still do not know how to handle their thought and how to handle their emotion. This is a huge disability in the world. If you don't know how to use your hands, would you call that a disability? If you don't know how to manage your thought, how to manage your emotion, is it not a disability? Just because everybody is in the same condition, it does not become normal. So essentially, you have made a choice of dealing with people who are sick or dying. It is a choice. And it is a privilege that those who are unwell, being unwell means you are no more 100% on your feet. You need somebody's help. Such people and those who are dying in some way, they're willing to trust you and put their life into your hands. It's a great privilege. Well, in this, there are many things to do, as you gave examples that you have to convey something unpleasant to somebody. Sometimes you're not able to treat them because either you have no time or they have no money or whatever. These are there. I'm not questioning this. But the most important aspect of this is, if you want to bring well-being to somebody, you must know how to be well, isn't it? Otherwise, how would you do it, I'm asking? How? How would you create well-being to someone when you do not know how to be well? What this implies is, if I have to be well, the world has to be perfect. Well, you're not going to be well. Because even if you're just two people in the family, not everything happens the way you think it should happen, isn't it? Hello? You can tell me, it's okay. Even if you're just two people, not everything will ever happen to you 100% the way you want it. 51%, if it's happening your way, you have the controlling stake. Anything more if you expect, you'll have a divorce. Yes. So, outside will never happen 100% the way you want it. Or in other words, if you expect the outside to be 100% the way you want it, you're just not equipped to live here in this world. Yes or no? If you're expecting the external situations to go 100% my way, obviously I'm not equipped to live in this world. You know, we are a volunteer organization, over 4,000 full-time volunteers, over 3 million part-time volunteers. Every day somebody is coming up to me and says, Sadhguru, I can't take her anymore, I can't take it. This person, I can't work with this person. This man is like this woman is like that. I tell them, see, this is the kind of people that exist in the world. If you think what you're doing is very significant, you got to work with these people, however they are. If you want to work with ideal people, you must go to heaven and today. These are our realities. If you truly see, genuinely see that what I am doing is significant, it's significant enough to make difference in lives around me, now you have to do that work. The problem is not of the nature of your work. You just ask anybody, from the topmost job down to the most menial job, everybody complains about stress. So stress is not about your job. I must tell you this. A few years ago, many years ago, when I first came to United States, wherever I went, people were talking about stress management. I couldn't understand this. Because in my understanding, we manage whatever is precious to us, our family, our wealth, our business, our money. Why would anybody want to manage stress? It took me a while to understand. People have concluded that stress is a part of their life. Stress is not a part of your life. It's just your inability to manage your own thought, your own emotion, your own energies and your own body. If you knew, if your mind took instructions from you, would you live in stress or in bliss? Please tell me. What's your choice?
Sure.
Yes, such a simple thing is not happening because your mind is not even taking instructions from you. If your intelligence turns against you, who the hell can save you? So, this anxiety, this stress is not about the job. It is just that our education systems are such, they're telling you how to conquer the world, how to break an invisible atom, how to go beyond space. But they're not telling you a thing about this one. This is the most complex, if you want to call it a human mechanism, this is the most complex and sophisticated mechanism you have seen. Yes?
Yes.
As a doctor, you know. But I'm asking, even the doctors, have they read the user's manual? How to use this? No? Just by accident, something. When you live by accident, anxiety is natural.
So, I was really interested in the title of your book, Inner Engineering, A Yogi's Guide to Joy. And those are some words that you don't usually see often so close together. I'm thinking about engineering
and joy.
And joy.
And a yogi.
There are some…
And a yogi.
And a yogi, right. Engineering, yogi, and I like that word, engineering. You need to know there are some really… some of the top engineers at the university are in the audience tonight.
Yesterday was the engineers…
Right there.
Yesterday was the World Engineers Day.
Yeah. So, what's the theme of… what would you say is the message of this? I mean, I think you're getting at that. Inner engineering, a yogi's guide to joy. What does that mean?
Say, if you and me were here, let's say 100 years ago or 200 years ago, how the world was and how it is today, it is almost another world. It's not the same world, you wouldn't have recognized it. That's how much it has changed. What changed this? Our ability to engineer external situations the way we want it. We could sit outside and do this, but now we're sitting in this building because this is engineered for our comfort. Now, engineering essentially means making something just the way we want it. We made everything in the world the way we want it, but now 54% burnout. Because we did not make this one thing the way we want it. If we made this one thing the way we want it, again the same question, would you live blissfully or miserably? If you made this the way you want it, you would definitely make this blissful, highest level of pleasantness for yourself. What you want for your neighbor may be debatable, but what you want for yourself is very clear, isn't it? So, this is not happening because we have never approached inner well-being in a scientific manner. We are thinking something else from somewhere is going to fix this. If we want to be well, we looked up. In India, they call this Uparwala. That means the one above. I'm saying, is it true that you are living on a round planet? Hello? Is it a round planet that we are living on? And on top of it, it's spinning. If you look up, you're invariably looking up in the wrong direction, isn't it? You must go to Australia to look up the right way. So I'm saying we are simply even incapable of knowing what is up and down in this universe. Is it somewhere marked in this cosmos, this side up? We not only do not know, we cannot know, isn't it? So we don't even know which is up, which is down. We do not know what is forward, what is backward. We really do not know what is east, what is west. For convenience, we made up things. But there is one thing that you can know right now, there is a perspective, there is inward and there is outward. We have been just busy fixing the outside. You fix the outside as much as you want, all you will get is comfort and convenience. You will not get well-being. If well-being has to happen, you have to engineer your interiority the way you want it. Only when this becomes the way you want, now this will be joyful. If outside becomes the way I want, there will be comfort. You have to admit this. Never before in the history of humanity, any other generation knew the kind of comforts and convenience that you and me are enjoying right now, yes or no? Huh? We are the most comfortable generation ever, but we are whining like crazy.
Let's talk about the inner life and the outer life. One thing that strikes me as so powerful about your mission in the world is that you seem to successfully broker both of those worlds.
Oh, you must take off the word broker.
I guess, how can I say, you successfully pursue both of those worlds, if you will. The Isha Foundation educates the young and plants trees. And then you also teach people about inner engineering. And I think that could be a challenge for we in the West. We in the West perhaps love the outer world and maybe at the expense of the inner world. But I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
See, all these massive projects of health, education and ecology that we are doing in southern India have mainly happened only because of an inner experience. There are millions of people who had a powerful inner experience. It's out of that we are able to generate this action. Because these massive projects are all completely done by a volunteer force. Volunteers means nobody is trained for the job. And you cannot fire them for inefficiency because they're volunteers. At the same time, even if they're holding a key position at any time, without notice they can just vanish. You manage an organization like this, you will go crazy in no time. That's my job. So, having described my job, which is a sure route to madness, if I was not as well established I am within myself, it would have driven me bonkers. Because I've managed businesses before. And at that time, I used to wield my authority on people to get things going. And the main thing was, they were on my… I was doing the payment for them. That was the main control. Now I don't make any payment for anybody, everybody is not paid, nobody is paid. In fact, they spend their own money and come and do everything to keep them going. Is essentially the inner engineering, because there is a powerful experience within which drives them to do all this work. It is unfortunate that people always trying to divide the world. You must understand this, that the very basic nature of human intellect is this. Human intellect, you know, all of you, the sharper it is, the better it is, isn't it so? You should agree with me. The sharper it is, the better it is, I think. Intellect.
Oh. I actually want to talk about being a prophet.
Well, I don't go that far. Let's
We're
finish
going.
the project.
Let's go there. So, because one of the things about sort of being mindful of the inner life.
You cannot be mindful of the inner life. Now you talked about being a prophet, now I can say no.
So I don't think… I wouldn't say you're a prophet, I'm talking about the Judeo-Christian tradition of prophecy. So in the Hebrew Bible, in the Old Testament, there is the role of those who speak truth to power, who speak out against injustice, who sacrifice themselves for a cause because of injustice. And there, in that narrative, there is anger and there is rage. And there are significant groups of people in the world, in our country, who have due cause to be angry about the world. The refugee, the ethnic minority, the poor. And one thing about inner engineering and sort of finding peace within oneself, the other side of that coin is, you know what, is there ever a time to be angry, to march, to be enraged at the injustice of the world? What would you say to that?
You know, Che, I know this is not a popular name in America. Che Guevara said, if you're in rage, you're one of us. I said, if you're out of rage, you're one of us. If you're really out of rage, you're definitely one of us, because you think there is a reason for your anger, which is a wrong perception. If you look at it, people get terribly angry with their loved ones. There's a whole lot of violence within the homes because they get terribly angry with their loved ones, somebody that they're living with, and they have a good reason to get angry because she did not cook the breakfast properly, or the dog peed where it's not supposed to pee. Or I've seen people yelling and screaming and breaking their clubs on a golf course where they're just having a good time. So I'm saying everybody has a reason to be angry. Anger means just this. When you're angry, as a doctor, you know today that when you're angry, literally you're generating poison in the system, literally. If you are poisoning yourself internally, and when you're angry, you know you do the most idiotic things in your life. When you turn back and see, you can't believe you did it. But most idiotic things happen when you're angry. So I'm asking, is anger an intelligent expression of human life or an idiotic expression of human life? Hello? Idiotic. So that's all you need to know. The next time you're angry, you just know you're stupid because you're turning against yourself. But I will tell you, the reason why this anger has been eulogized is, in a moment of anger, some people who were sleeping all their life propelled themselves into action, and that action produced some results. Yes, that can happen. It may so happen, that if I throw a stone at you, instead of hitting you, it hit the apple in the tree and the apple fell into your hands. But that's by accident. Generally, if I throw a stone, your head will crack. That's what is supposed to happen. Yes? So I got angry and something got done. So I think anger is a great way of doing things. So when you're angry, you yell and fume at somebody. I'm asking all of you, How many of you enjoy being yelled at and fumed by somebody else, whether it's your boss or your husband or your wife or your parents or anybody? You really thoroughly enjoyed this. Hello? Did you? No. And what makes you think somebody else enjoys it? They endure you, they don't enjoy you. And when they're done, they're done. So, it doesn't matter whether the anger happened to a man that you call as a prophet, because we have a way of eulogizing everything with which we have a distance of time. Suddenly, anything which is over 1,000 years becomes sacred in most people's mind, but whatever is happening right now, however great it is, they don't have the intelligence to recognize this. People are saying the past things are great simply because everybody else is saying it, not because they truly recognize. But we are coming to a time, if you don't do it, your children will do this. That is, a time is coming in the world where unless it makes sense, it doesn't matter from what source it comes from. Even if God comes and speaks here, the next generation will reject it unless it makes sense to them. This is a good development because instead of authority being the truth, truth is becoming the authority. It's a good way to go. But once this happens, questions are going to rise, all kinds of questions. With all due respect to every religious tradition on the planet, I come from a land which has immense traditions, unbelievable. Most people in the world, most Indians are not even conscious of this. How many traditions, how many ways are there in that land? When Mark Twain came to India, he said, anything that can ever be done either by man or God has been done in this land, because the exploration is so incredible. But with all due respect to all of them, I say this, that if you raise three fundamental questions, 90% of the scriptural knowledge on the planet will collapse. I'm sorry, but this is the truth. If you ask three pertinent questions, you will see 90% of the scriptural knowledge on the planet will just collapse, it can't stand scrutiny.
So what are the three questions?
You are not a scripture, so why should I?
Oh no, you said ask three questions.
Yes, the fundamental questions. If you ask, simply, see, the fundamental thing is this: you don't know where you came from, you don't know where you will go. You can believe. If we work hard enough on you, we can make you believe anything. You must know this. I was just talking to a group of people in Nashville, Tennessee, where our center is. I was just telling them a joke. In the joke, I referred to God as Him. Immediately a few ladies stood up and said, "Do you believe God is a man?" I said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, I know what I've gotten into, you know." I said, "I was just telling you a joke." He said, "It doesn't matter, you said Him." Now this is a debate in America, is God a man or a woman? I think this time in the election they're trying to settle that issue. But where we come from, we have no such issue. We have a man god, we have a woman god, we have a cow god, we have an elephant god, we have a snake god, we have a bird god, we have a dog god, we have every kind. Crawling ones, creeping ones, flying ones, all kinds. Because we are a very wise culture. We foresaw all the future problems that may arise. And there is also a debate which in the last election they tried to settle, but it did not settle, I think. People are debating in southern churches, is God black or white? It's a big serious debate happening. People really debating about this, is God white or black? Well, you know, Idi Amin, the Uganda man, Idi Amin declared God is black. I agree with him. As if a white man can have a white god, why can't a black man have a black god? But you know, these people do not know, because in these parts of the world, only messiahs, prophets, sons, others came. They don't know. In India, we know God is brown. Yes. Because God himself visited India 9 times. Are you aware of this? You didn't know? God visited India 9 times, himself. Indians are very proud of this because God visited us himself 9 times and he sent his son and messenger and others to other places. I keep reminding them, that's because God wanted to do the job hands-on with Indians. He couldn't trust anybody else with Indians. He came 9 times and he failed.
Let's talk about it.
No, coming to belief, I'm saying we can make people believe anything if you work upon them from their childhood. Anything, believe me. You just have to work hard enough and make them believe this, that, everything. Belief gives you a confidence without clarity. Confidence without clarity is a disaster on this planet. There is no substitute for clarity. There is no substitute for clarity. But if you have confidence, you can just do something, just like that. Sometimes it works. Even if you're not clear, you can simply do something and it'll work. Can I tell you a joke?
Please.
This happened in New York City. Late afternoon, an 8-year-old boy came back from school. He had a very progressive mother, obviously she was single. I'm saying nobody catch up with her. He came home and he asked, "Mama, is God man or woman?" She thought about all the gender issues and the coming election and everything. And then she thought about it for a while and she said, "Both." The boy went into deep thought. After a little while, the boy came back and asked, "Mama, is God black or white?" Again she thought about all the racial issues in the country, and after considering this at length, she said, "Both." The boy went into very deep thought. Then after some time he came back and asked, "Mama, is God straight or gay?" She again thought about it and then she said, "Both." The boy jumped in joy, I got it, it's Michael Jackson." So how we arrived at our belief has cultural backing. Every culture has made up their own stuff. But I'm asking, do we genuinely know where we came from and where we're going? If you're so clear where you're going, that is for an appointment with the Creator, I don't think you should postpone the appointment. You must take it today, isn't it? But that's not true. If death is next moment, you don't want to go. If you are so sure, only that fanatic who blows himself up seems to be sure. Everybody else has a doubt, isn't it? Every working intelligence has a doubt, yes or no? If you have frozen your intelligence with overriding belief systems, then you're going. Every other working intelligence, if death is next moment, there is hesitation or no? For sure, isn't it? Because you really don't know where you're going. You can believe what you want, but you really do not know. Belief is of social significance, to some extent of psychological significance, but existentially it means nothing.
Can I ask your thoughts on this? In some ways, in many ways, we are the inheritors of our traditions. and they do influence us and shape us. Is there a positive role for the traditions from whence we come? For example, if I'm going to try to inner engineer my inner life and try to get some direction and meaning and faith and hope and values, I can't do it alone. And there are rich traditions, Hindu traditions, Judeo-Christian traditions, Muslim traditions that give some context, some meaning, some structure upon which to anchor my life. What do you think about that? Do we throw away all the traditions and inner engineer our lives, or can we use these traditions?
As you said, to anchor our lives. Now that is the decision that every human being has to make. Do you want to be anchored or do you want to set sail? That is a decision that everybody has to make. If you're looking for confidence, if you're looking for stability, then you have to anchor yourself to something. If you're looking to go far, then anchoring will not help. Traditions, all traditions, with all due respect to all of them, particularly traditions that are coming from India and also elsewhere. I'm not in any way an expert to make a comment on the traditions that you're talking about, but essentially tradition means this. What somebody did yesterday is today's culture and tradition. What you do today is tomorrow's culture and tradition. I'm asking you, how much of what we're doing today in this world and in this country is consciously cultured? But all the rubbish that we do will become tomorrow's culture and tradition of this land, isn't it so? Hello? I'm saying, do you believe that people who lived here 1,000 years ago were such superhuman beings, they did everything perfectly and you're doing everything wrong? It's not so. They were also just people like you. We have a way of elogizing everything with which we have a certain distance of time. But are they of no value? Not true. There are a whole lot of things that we as human beings simply know today, which is thanks to the traditions in which we have grown up. We cannot say no. But if you want to know this life, which is myself, no tradition is… Tradition can inspire you, tradition can put you in a direction, tradition cannot take you there because this has to happen now to you, only then it's a living reality for you. Otherwise you will read in a book and believe it. But how do you know this works? I'm saying it should work. People ask me, Sadhguru, how do we know whether we have met a real teacher or a guru or not? I just tell them, look at his face, whether it's worked for him, what he's talking. Has it worked for him? That's all the question. If it's worked for him, it doesn't matter what it is, you must go with him because it's worked for him. If it's not worked for him, what is the point? Dead tradition.
So one of the traditions here in a medical school, in a Western medical school, is the tradition of the evidence. Show me. And this tradition, which is only really maybe 200 or 300 years old, the randomized controlled trial, the cohort study, all of that, and it's good. You know, that's how we've gotten cures for, pneumonia and drugs to help alleviate pain. It's all been done through this pursuit of the evidence. And also I'm a pastor, and I fully embrace the life of the Spirit and the truth that we find in our faith traditions. And I love that tradition. But I do recognize a tension, if you will, between the truth that we discover in the lab and the truth that we discover in our spirit. And I love that tension. I think that's a great way to live in a way, that sort of loving, joyful pursuit that is both the truth that I see around me and the love that grows in my heart. But I do recognize the tension. What is your perception of that?
So when we talk about the evidence-based approach, it is not a tradition. When it happened, when the Renaissance happened, it was breaking of all traditions. Till then, because it was written in a book, because a certain authority was espousing it, we said, this is it. When medical science evolved from Jenner to others, the fundamental thing was they broke all tradition. So now if that is becoming a tradition, I'm very sorry, because this was an exploration. An exploration cannot be traditional. An exploration means you're constantly trying to step into new terrain. That's what an exploration is. But if that has become traditional, then we are treading the same track and thinking it's exploration. This evidence-based approach has done wonders to many, many things, no question. But this entire process is dependent upon the human intellect. This is what we were just coming to, but we went off a little bit. Human intellect, by nature, I was just asking you, would you like it sharp or blunt? Hello? You want it sharp. If you have a sharp instrument, let's say you have a knife in your hand, what could you do with this flower? With a knife. You could cut it finely if you want, but you can cut it into pieces. That's exactly what the intellect does. Whatever you give it, it will cut it open and try to see. The way of evidence-based science is dissection, fundamentally. Well, even in the medical school, I'm sure, where the pathology labs, we are opening up, fortunately the dead. But if you really want to know somebody, someone whom you love very much, if you really want to know them, I think you should dissect them to know them. Would it work like that? No, obviously. So, there is one dimension of life which is physical in nature, where dissection will work. But what is physical about you, the body that you carry, is an accumulation that you gathered over a period of time. It's just the food that you've eaten. It is actually a piece of the planet. Most people don't get this when they're walking, but the countless number of people who walked on this planet before you and me, they are all topsoil today. You and me also will be topsoil, unless your friends choose to bury you real deep, fearing that you may rise from the dead. This is just the soil, isn't it? Hello? This is just the soil that you walk upon. So this is an accumulation. What you gather, what you accumulate, you can claim it is mine. You cannot say it's me, isn't it? Right now as I'm speaking, I say, this is my glass. You will think, oh, Sadhguru seems to have a problem. But let's listen, everybody says he's wise. After some time, I'll say, this is me. Then you will say, let's go. Because if I claim this is me, you know, it qualifies for madness, isn't it? Whatever you acquire, you can say, this is mine. But if you say, this is me, this is madness, yes or no? Are there any psychiatrists? Does this qualify? It does. So, every day you're doing this, food appeared on your plate, you said, this is my food, you ate it and then you say, it's me. This is madness. But you have enormous company. And we believe in democracy. Whatever the majority says must be right. So, it is going on. But the moment you believe something that is not you as yourself, you kind of lost it. You derailed from life. So turning inward does not mean dissection. Turning inward does not mean contemplation, because the content of your body and the content of your mind is an accumulated substance, isn't it? You gathered it from outside. What you gather from outside can be yours, but can never ever be you. So we're talking about inner engineering, not as twisting and turning the body, not about taking on new attitudes of love or generosity, compassion, whatever great values and emotions that a human being can have. I see all that as a consequence of a certain way of being, rather than looking at it as a means to get somewhere. Everywhere people are talking about whatever… See, if you deprive somebody of something for a period of time, simple qualities will raise to heaven. Today, anywhere you go, people are talking peace of mind is the ultimate goal of human life. Why? Because they've freaked out in their minds. Why would peace be the highest goal? Because you're talking about Judeo-Christian thing, the origin of where it came from. I happened to be in Tel Aviv. I was to get there that morning and speak at 6:30 in the evening. I was flying in from Atlanta. Because of some delays in the